Hi, and welcome to Hope for Families. Hi, I'm Lynn Brown, and along with my husband, Dr. Kenneth Brown, we are thrilled that you've tuned in to this broadcast. And our prayer is that you'll be strengthened and encouraged by sharing this time with us. Later, my husband will talk about Let My People Go, but first listen as my husband shares a touching story in Adventures in God called Cosmic Comfort.
When least expected, a persistent phantom pain beyond explanation or my control engulfs me. I lived and served as a missionary in a magical country during 1973-74 with the friendliest people in the world, and I am still homesick to this very day. The beautiful Bahamas are island strings of brilliant white sand pearls floating on water that is so warm your feet cannot tell the moment they leave the beach. The ocean is incredibly clear. It becomes invisible like air, allowing you to catch visions of exotic aquatic life in depths 100 feet below, and with colors so vivid and intense, blending shades of turquoise, aquamarine, emerald green, royal, then navy, then baby blue, until you rub your eyes in disbelief. God's paint pots. These living seas flow above into expansive azure blue skies at the edge of a horizon where flotilla of fluffy clouds float like fleets of pirate ships dispatched to capture your heart. It's the very stuff of dreams. After 6 months of exhaustive Christian service, the mission team sent me for a long weekend for some much needed rest and relaxation to a tiny island called Spanish Wells, which was parked in the lee of Abaco Island, its much larger neighbor. I left in a mailboat they called a packet from New Providence Island, and was thrilled by the adventure on the open ocean as the 40-footer flirted with a number of picturesque harbor towns, accessible only by water. Its mission was to deliver mail and supplies and pick up or drop off local passengers by the gangplank they set up at every port. Now, despite my tiredness, I was the perfect tourist, awash in curiosity and wonder, gawking everywhere, asking everyone dumb questions about everything. Too soon the boat arrived at the idyllic fishing village and glided into the protective cove where lines were tossed and tied. It was now my turn to walk the plank, so I wandered up quaint streets, past rows of pastel-painted cottages, following written directions to the house where I was to reside. The kind hosts welcomed me into their house with hugs and a roast beef dinner. I thought I was in heaven. But then, during dessert, they had me for dessert. The discussion had gradually become increasingly animated and then heated as the topic of racism and equality were engaged. I tried to extract myself rather than appear rude to my host, but he insisted on attempting to justify his prejudice through misapplied Bible verses and distorted theology. Well, I jumped into my theological soapbox. It only took me 5 minutes, and I was abruptly evicted from the sanctuary of their family, as I had both offended them and challenged them when I was but their guest. Nowhere to stay, and feeling very sorry for myself, I trudged down that same little street, only this time in the shadows, retracing my steps back to the ferry dock where the packet ship was due to return in 3 days. My thoughts were full of the, why didn't I keep my mouth shut? And I complained to God like, how could they treat me like this? Silence. Only a gaunt and hungry sliver of a thin crescent moon hung palely in the opaque sky. In its paltry light, I felt my way across the deck, then plopped on to the rough wooden wharf, and took off my sandals and plunked my feet into the still dark water. Used to the frigid Canadian north, I was once again amazed that I could not physically discern where the body temperature water gently lapped against my calves. This surprisingly warm embrace was such a contrast.